Amazon, you are killing me with your spy shows. I hated Jack Ryan Season 2, and I have not really enjoyed Treadstone all that much. This is a series that I think it airs on the USA Network in the States, but we got it here in Canada on Amazon Prime. And they're doing some pretty interesting stuff on Amazon Prime Video. They're trying very hard to compete with Netflix and now Disney+. But I enjoy spy movies and spy television and the idea of espionage. And I am a huge Jason Bourne fan. The Bourne Identity was an incredible movie that was showcasing Matt Damon as we had never seen him before. And of course, it inspired sequels and spin-offs. And here we are with Treadstone, which is supposed to kind of deal with the origin story about the shadowy organization that created characters like Jason Bourne. Interesting premise, a good idea to kind of mine into that fiction because it's all fascinating. And of course, it deals with taking agents and filling their heads with all kinds of weird propaganda and sort of breaking them down psychologically and then building them back up to be programmable, lethal fighting forces. That's exactly what we see here. We see the roots of the organization taking shape in this sort of covert Soviet-era time frame. We see this young woman, this red-haired femme fatale, who takes this CIA agent and completely breaks him down into the shell of who he was and then tries to build him back up and turn him against his former allies. And he goes through all kinds of hell. And so we're back in the 70s and then we're back in present day, which is kind of an interesting idea. So we're seeing like the early days and it's all shot with a little bit more of a yellow kind of tone. And then we go into the sort of present day and we're all over the world with this show, which I also appreciated. So we're in Washington, D.C. We're in the headquarters of the CIA. We see a lot of people on phones getting really surly and saying, I can't handle this, I can't handle this.
Get me a fucking heat signature on Haynes.
There is no signature for him, sir.
How is that possible?
We also start to see all kinds of Treadstone infused and informed and trained agents start to wake up. They're called cicadas, and they're waking up in different areas and killing a bunch of innocent people, or they're completing a mission and they're not aware of what they're doing. And so we're bouncing around. We're bouncing around into the Arctic. We're in city and urban areas. We're in North Korea for a bit. We're in China. And it's interesting, but it all becomes a crazy, cluttered mess. One of the actors is Brian J. Smith, who I remember from Sense8 not too long ago, and I enjoyed that show quite a bit. And this started to feel like a Sense8 type of experience with all of these different protagonists that we follow for a little bit, but then it just becomes a really confusing mess, and you're waiting for that revelation, like you're following a character for a bit and you're waiting for that character to suddenly pull off all kinds of super spy moves, and they're going to wake up and then they're going to become a threat, and there'll be a little blip on a map, and you know, people walking into rooms with people on computers, and they look like call centers in all of these spy movies, and they're all sort of looking at all of the data, and there's a new one that's woken up over here, there's a new one, we got to take him out, we got to take him out. So agents are sent out to try to take out other agents because, you know, we got to keep this all under wraps, and there's lots of betrayal and lots of intrigue, except there isn't. You're just watching this and it just feels overly melodramatic, and it just feels like, you know, people had been watching 24 reruns and trying to, you know, amp up the intensity, and it just falls really, really flat. There's so many cliches in this. Many of these cliches we've already seen cliched to death in the actual Bourne movies, but they're done over and over again. I will say that the stunt teams did a good job with the fight sequences, because that was one of the key pillars of the Bourne movies, is all of these intricate and wonderfully choreographed fight sequences where regular household items were pulled into the conflict and used in extraordinary ways. We get a lot of that, and the fights are pretty fun to watch. Decent car chases. I mean, stunts are pretty fun, but they're a little bit numbing when you're not really invested in the characters. My wife and I watched a bunch of these episodes together. She parachuted out eventually, and we started to call this show Meanwhile, because it was like we'd have a bunch of action sequences with a motorbike chase for a bit, and then meanwhile, we're in Washington, D.C. and watching people on phones for a bit.
Does he have a cell phone?
The burner he used to call Van Roon got access to the system.
All right, activate the microphone and set up the audio feed through our system.
And then meanwhile, we're following this crazy, psychotic cicada agent that has just come to life and is taking out all kinds of cops. So there was a lot of that. Bang, 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 and it was driving me crazy. I did complete the season, and there's a big supposed shocking reveal at the end of it, but by the end of it, I was like, oh my god, I don't think I ever want to watch this show again. Which is kind of heartbreaking because there's some good stuff in here, some good performances. Brian J. Smith had to shave his head for the role, and so there's like good commitment there. Michelle Forbes looks like she's completely distraught. You've seen her in The Killing, and you've seen her in Battlestar Galactica and tons of other things over the years. There's some good work in here. It's just not a good show. So, like my wife, I am parachuting out of Treadstone. I won't be back for more, and I'm going to give season 1 a 6 out of 10.